to Mind Escape. Are you ready?
Are you ready to escape your mind?
Hello, Mind Escapees. If you have not already, please go check out my other channel, Masters of Rhetoric. I will have the link down below. It's also part of the Mind Escape LinkTree link. It's something I'm very passionate about, where I dissect the origins of Western thought through the pre-Socratic thinkers, all the way to Aristotle, and I'm probably going to go beyond that as well at some point. So please support Masters of Rhetoric. Go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. There's tons of shorts on there already, as well as episodes. And there's a bunch of episodes lined up. I'm on all audio platforms with it. And if you're on TikTok, Instagram, X, or any of the social media platforms, please go check out our page on there as well. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Tonight we have an amazing episode. I am joined by Edward Crowe. He is the manager for the rapper Yelawolf, a visionary photographer, and the founder of Murder Cigars. But beyond the music and the business, Edward has carved a unique path that blends artistry, ritual, and consciousness. If you would like to support him, please click the link down below. We're going to dive into the world where hip-hop meets ceremony, exploring how sacred mushroom use, creative discipline, and authenticity shapes not just the art we make, but the lives that we live. This one's about the alchemy of creation, the courage to evolve, and finding meaning in the modern ritual. Let's dive in. All right. Welcome to Mind Escape New Telos, Edward. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Mike?
Great. I love having new people on the show, trying to diversify a little bit in terms of topics and guests and things like that. Why don't you give us a little bit of your backstory on how you got into the psychedelic stuff and the path that led you there?
So growing up, I was a magician, like a performing magician. I did close up and stage magic. I was some bigger magicians' assistants. So I've always had this love for magic and like the mystical. My grandmother used to read me H.P. Blavatsky and Edgar Cayce and a lot of esoteric, occult-leaning literature that sparked my interest very, very young. So all through my life, I kind of had this love for mystery. And as I got older, I stopped doing magic shows and started becoming more interested in mystery schools and, the occult, esoteric teachings and things like that. And then that led to one time I thought I bought a couple pounds of mushrooms from somebody and my full intention was to make money, and that's it. I didn't know anything about them, had no context of the background. I bought them and realized real quick people buy mushrooms one time and then that's about it, for a while. So I got stuck with like a pound of them. So I just started eating them. No real knowledge of what's going to happen or what they stand for. And I figured out, I'd say me and a friend of mine split an ounce one night. And we took that in some tea. And I had an experience in the bathroom. I got sick. And then when I went to wash my hands, I turned around to look, and this like translucent hole in reality opens up. And it was this Indian goddess. We've all seen her. She had her hands like this. I don't know which one she was. She had all these hands behind her. And I was fascinated. And it was very, very seductive. Not sexually seductive, but like, trance-like seductive. And it was pulling me in. And the more that I wanted to go in, something told me, if you come here, you die there. And I felt this fear come over me. And then it vanished and didn't come back for the rest of the trip. I've had a couple other crazy experiences where things actually happen like that. But that's the very first time that it made sense to me that this thing is more. I didn't realize at the point that it was like a sacrament. You know what I mean? I had no knowledge of the tribes and, people that did this in other countries. And I didn't really understand any of that yet, but I kept doing it, kept upping the dose, started taking it out in nature. And all of a sudden it was like the mushroom just let me know, you know what I mean? Like this is before this whole psychedelic um, renaissance, or whatever's going on right now. I've been doing this a long, long time, and I still don't do it. Like these days, I won't do it with more than two people. You know what I mean? It's we don't do a bunch of people. I don't advertise. I don't. It's not a retreat. It's just one of those things when somebody needs it and they want to come, then I'll facilitate, right? But it's all there's no cost involved. There's nothing like that. But that's how it led to my interest in psychedelics.
Interesting. Um, so when you do these ceremonies, or is that what you call them, ceremonies?
Yeah, I call them ceremonies or journeys. Yeah,
Journeys. Where do you have a special place? Is it out in the woods? Is it, like where do you do it?
I do. I used to do it inside, and this is probably 6, 7 years ago now. And I had like a strange long bathroom. It was like kind of thin and long, and I would do it in there for a couple of years, man. I would just lay next to the toilet with a small air mattress, and because the doses that I was taking are high doses, 9 grams and up. And back then it was more around 12 to 14. Now I stay about 9. I found a good mushroom I like. It's potent enough. But yeah, now I've moved outside. I haven't done it inside in over 2 years. But I have a piece of property, 11 acres, and it's mostly forest. And I have an abandoned building that a friend of mine came to town, a really well known visual artist, and he painted this beautiful mural after we had an experience. And it's called "We Are the Hands of Our Ancestors." But we have one spot on my land, and I purposely go there and meditate and bless the land. We built a fire pit. I know this is deep, but my mother passed away a couple of years. It was a big supporter of my journey and my love for mushrooms. She definitely would partake and understood the benefits. So on Christmas morning at sunrise, I put some ashes of hers at this sacred spot and covered it with the crystal she gave me. And that crystal is forever there. We form a triangle out of the crystals, and it's like a place of protection. So we take it really, really serious. It's there's a prayer that's said in advance. It's more of an intention setting thing. It's definitely not in relation to any religious activity or anything like that. But it's like an intention setting, man. And I find that really preparing and being conscious, having respect for the mushroom, and going in the right way, really, really determines the success of a trip. I haven't had a bad trip in a long time, very, very long time, maybe a couple years, and I don't anticipate ever having one again. But I have no problem navigating through darkness, you know what I mean, or uncomfortable places. But yeah, to answer your question, only in nature and specifically in one spot, unless I have the opportunity to go to another country or Hawaii or something like that. I've been to Jamaica and did a outside sunrise ceremony on the coast on top of a fossilized coral reef. So yeah, I prefer nature.
Interesting. Yeah. I've been camping my whole life and obviously did a lot of experimenting in the woods. I did just read an article not that long ago, I think like last week, where like 3 guys were hiking on a mountain and they all, yeah, and then they had to be like brought back by the DNR or the Rangers or whatever. So yeah, knowing your set and setting, yeah, you can, if you're an experienced psychonaut, you can probably push the boundaries a little bit, but if you're not, to your point though too, with the high dose, sometimes you get out there and you're just completely disconnected from that whole realm too. So yeah, knowing your zones and everything's super important. Yeah, I've had some pretty weird experiences, and I personally don't love doing anything like that anymore with anybody else. I've just seen people like get weird, and yeah, I don't know. I've had some weird experiences where people get like territorial, or I don't even know how to explain it. Just like they turn on you. Yeah, yeah. And even growing up, like in high school when we would do it, in the days of not having the reverence for the compounds and everything like that, you look at people as like, oh, opposition, or that guy's not really my friend, or I see right through this shit, or whatever the case may be. So I absolutely, I'm a solo guy if I do it at this point, which I've done it enough to know, like, similar to what you're saying, like, what to expect. There's probably not going to be any negative fallout or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, has anything crazy ever happened out there with anybody or?
Yeah, man. Actually, it has. On a couple occasions. I mean, I always figure out a way to keep it under control because I know what I signed up for. You know what I mean? And I understand that these things take people into places they might not even know existed in their mind. A couple people have shit their pants. You know what I mean? It's not uncommon. They're usually embarrassed, but I told them you earned that. You know what I mean? Like that's like a black belt in psychedelics. You know what I mean? Like if you get to that point, you want to clean up quick, but yeah, it's like the purge is a part of it, man. And when you put your nervous system through that heavy of a push, you know what I mean? It's like I've actually looked up the similarities between when a person dies and they, use the bathroom in their pants, or they throw up the minute their body dies, right? And I've looked up the similarities, and they're similar, but it's more like your nervous system on high dose psilocybin. It's like your nervous system can't handle it. When you die, your nervous system shuts down. You know.
Well, yeah, I
So
mean, a
it's
lot of people on ayahuasca purge, they barf, shit, everything. So yeah, that's not super uncommon for getting, into those higher states of consciousness.
right, and it's an electric field, man. It's like I'm sure you can relate to this, but there's times when like someone who's not really familiar with these places might say, "Oh man, I don't really feel it anymore," and then it's almost like automation. You know what I mean? It's like it'll crank back up on you and play with you, and so it's definitely not something to play with, man. But I lock up all phones in a safe, right? I mean, of course, no weapons of any kind. We put all the keys in the safe to the cars. By the time you get on 9 grams, you can't figure out how to open the safe, so you're fine. There's no cars to drive. The gates locked. Like I take it really, really serious, and I'm very, very careful and think of safety for the people involved as the highest priority, and second, respect for the mushroom. And knowing how to go about that, because that's my thing. I don't really microdose. I play with it occasionally. I'll take a little piece or something, but I can't get it right for some reason. It's either I don't feel anything at all, which is kind of where you want to be. I want to be in an elevated mood, but then sometimes I'll take it, I'll mess up my whole day. And I'm a music executive, so I have to communicate all day long. So if I have a day where I get knocked sideways, that's gonna ruin everything. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I'm a high.
I don't think we mentioned that you are the manager for Yelawolf.
Mhm.
And you also have a cigar company called Murder Cigars, and you are also a professional photographer. So you're kind of like a polymath here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, do a little bit. I'm doing some real estate right now. We just launched my website, cleaned up the website to be more on brand with what's going on now. Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff going on, man. I got a great team. I'm working with a couple really good artists, really incredible artists. Yelawolf being the main one. And he's extremely supportive of everything I got going on.
That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
And so when you do these excursions and things like that, do you ever use that to help kind of fuel your creativity, or is it more of like a spiritual seeking adventure kind of a thing, or what's going on there?
Great question. Great question. So I've been business for the last decade, and my mother, before she passed, she always used to remind me to be creative because I originally came up. I went to magnet school for theater arts. I went to another magnet school for visual arts. Was in the Memphis College of Art. I'm an artist at heart, visual, but so yeah, I mean, as far as mushrooms and psychedelics in general, but mostly psilocybin, it brought me back to who I was as a child, and I'm very, very thankful. They've inspired me to be more creative, and creativity is therapy. You know what I mean? So, in turn, in effect, they've allowed me to be less stressed. I used to drink a lot. I didn't think I had a drinking problem at the time, but I was partying with all the artists I work with. And I also wasn't running anything. I was the merch guy. I was the lowest guy on the totem pole. Took a half an ounce one time, and my intention was to figure out how to get drinking in check. Because I wouldn't drink every day, but I was the guy that would get in trouble every time he did drink. Right. So the mushrooms, I swear, after that trip, I didn't even like the taste anymore. But I'm also not a sober person. I'll gladly have a glass of wine with you or margarita if we need to, you know what I mean? But it's interesting how it shifted everything. And then after that, I was able to rise through, the different things in the business because I wasn't drunk all the time. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah, you don't have
mushroom,
to convince me, man. I'm not a fan of alcohol at all, and not just because, obviously, I've known a lot of people and people in my family and stuff that have had either issues or pass away, but just the fact that it doesn't do anything for me. I think psychedelics, cannabis, things like that are, for me, have always, I like to learn when I get in those zones. I like to learn something or figure out a problem or
right.
get out there, philosophically. I don't love the idea of like numbing myself, if that makes sense.
I'm the same way, brother. I'm the same way. And I feel like the longer I've stayed away from it, not to get too far out there, but like things where you start to realize you can drive your reality and you focus and you study, and then things start to fall into place. Life's going good. I've noticed that the more I hone in on that superpower, when I drink so rarely that when I do drink, it takes me a couple days to get back to my mojo. You know what I mean? Like it's not as relevant until I get that out of my system. So I do everything I can to stay away from it. If there's something celebratory, I'll toast or enjoy a drink or whatever. But yeah, mushrooms have done that. But also, like you said, I mean, creativity for sure. But also, man, mushrooms keep me sane. And I know that sounds crazy that you do something that makes people crazy or think they're crazy to stay sane. But I do several different businesses, as we mentioned. I deal with a lot of different personalities, and I have to turn from the guy that's straightening this guy out to the guy that's lifting this dude up or helping this lady out. And, we're talking about merch one minute, the next minute we're talking about mushrooms or photography. We're switching lanes constantly all day long. And that's tough, right? But when we go on tour, you're dealing with a bunch of different personalities. A lot of them are really good, but they're different. Some of them are bad. You know what I mean? Like life, but a lot more of it more frequently. And I always take a big dose ceremony before I go on the road, no matter what I have to do. I'd rather go with one pair of clothes and make sure I get that ceremony in. You know what I mean? And then when I get home, same thing to wash it all off. It's like a soul shower, and everybody around me will tell me. I mean, they've gotten used to it and say, like, dude, you need to trip mushrooms. You need to go take care of that, you know? So it's
No,
become
for
such an
sure.
important part of my life, and people around me are aware of that as well.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you too. So, being involved in like hop and having artists and stuff like that, I'm a musician myself. I'm more into like jam bands, jazz, rock, that kind of, fusion stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the psychedelic stuff has always been kind of tied to like hippies, like Grateful Dead, Fish, that kind of stuff. Um, is hip hop culture starting to embrace psychedelics, or is that, is there always been an underbelly? I feel like it's, if there's a connection there, it's probably somewhat more recent based on
Yeah, I
just
feel like
observation.
yeah, I mean you're right. You're definitely right. A lot of the hip hop community from my experience seems to be, suspicious of it or nervous about it. You know what I mean? And I tell them I'm nervous every time. You know what I mean? I'm nervous right now about the next time, right? That's not a reason not to. There's other reasons, but I would say Andre 3000 in my opinion. I think he might have dabbled. You know what I mean? Just based on probably the same reasons you would think so. Um, and there was an obvious shift that I can relate to in his career, and I think it was incredible and beautiful. ASAP Rocky, I think, is one. You know, and there's a handful of them, man. I think it has its place. I've heard Kevin Gates talk about using psilocybin, but no, it's definitely not as relevant as like a hippie community or rock and roll or something like that. But even the world in general, I hear a lot about microdosing and chocolates, and I don't hear as much about the fruits and the sacred aspect of these things, right? But it's
Yeah.
coming.
So the reverence thing. I mean, look. I mean, when I was in high school and stuff, and look, I've always had this like subconscious wanting to explore more. So I've
Mhm.
never just been like, oh, let me just take this or whatever. Like, it's never been like, oh, I'm just going to take these compounds and, you know, trip out, man, or anything like that. There's always been some reason or intention, or I've done it at concerts. I've done it at a lot of concerts. But, yeah, in terms of that, I think the idea of it is people like, oh, I just want to see colors and patterns, or I just want to, get out of this mind space that I'm in, or whatever the case may be, party, whatever. And especially like, MDMA and stuff. I mean, those are pretty heavy in the party scene. But when you look at like psilocybin, I mean, I think that there is something magical to it that even the first few times when I was younger and didn't really know a lot kind of set me on that path. But you have to
Mhm.
be receptive to it too, if that makes sense. Like if you're just, I know people that same did it the same time or same ways, whatever, and their life went way off the rails. So it's not like it's a cure-all or a panacea that's going to fix your mind or your problems or anything like that. But I do think having, like you said, that you were always interested in mysteries and things like that, I think knowing that there's more to life and using it as a tool to kind of investigate that, I think that's kind of where I've landed on in my later years, where I don't need to do it hardly at all. If right now I got a lot of stuff going on in my life, there's been times where I did it a lot, there's been times where I've done it a little. So it's there if you need it, and you don't always need to do it, if that makes sense.
Right. No, 100%. And I'm big on, again, safety. I don't like to promote high dose and all this stuff without making it crystal clear that I know and understand that that can be very dangerous. And there's a certain protocol that you have to take to do that, as safe as possible. Can't even say safely, as safe as possible. Right. But I tend to use mushrooms. And again, this is not something for someone who's new to this. But I mean, when I'm at my worst, when the world is all over me and I'm stressed out, it happens to all of us. I don't mean it's, too crucial, but when I'm in a place where I can't stop complaining, there's certain things going on and I'm angry, I have to go out to that circle and eat 9 grams. And the reason I eat 9 grams, I've taken an eighth before. And man, I have all these thoughts, all these ideas, all these things go through my mind, and it doesn't make me sick. I know that sounds crazy to people who don't know. I know you get what I'm saying, but some people don't understand that. If I don't get that out of me, sometimes I've been worse off after the trip than I was before. And I was searching peace. I was looking to be chilled out a little bit. So I stick to my 9 grams because it gets the job done. I get sick every time. Again, I know that's not doesn't sound pleasant, but I feel so much lighter. You know what I mean? And I feel incredible, and I spread that incredible the best of my ability to everyone that I come in contact with. And that's my goal, is to just wash off any sharpness, any acidic vibe that I might have, and get myself back on the frequency that I'm proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah, and do you I prefer the macro obviously too. I know microdosing is kind of like a big trend, but
Mhm.
um I've always been a macro guy in the sense that when you do one of those large doses, you don't want to do it for a while. You want to marinate on the things that you learned about yourself and the insights and things like that. When you do the 9 grams, like how often would you say how many times a year do you think that you even do it? Probably not that many.
Man, when I have it my way and I'm not gone next week, I got to go to New Zealand and I'm back on tour in November. So it's like it's hard for me right now. And it's about to be cold. But if I have it my way, every 2 weeks, every 14 days. And again, it's very regulated. It's under super control. There's a couple people who aren't present, who know that I'm here and know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I take every single precaution. But I also need that 2 weeks for one, for any kind of tolerance. You know, you don't want to get into some tolerance thing. You don't want to overwhelm your system, right? And you also need time to integrate. You know, I personally take a lot of lessons from the mushroom. It's definitely not just colors and waves and things like that. It's lessons. And it's not easy. You know, and I know me and you are on the same page. I know you understand what I'm saying. But it's like, it's not easy. You know what I mean? But it's worth it. You know, it's like you got to have the courage to walk through that, understand that, get those lessons. I don't want to come back to the mushroom unless I properly integrated and practiced what I promised I would practice. You know what I mean? There's things in that moment that are so, you can feel them in your bones. You know what I mean? It's like the most serious thing ever in your entire life. And I take those things very seriously. And integration is maybe the most important part of the process. You know, proving to this, whatever it is, whether it's within me, I don't claim to know. I don't know if it's within me or if it's something without me. Definitely feels like it's something without me. But again, I can't claim to know. You know what I mean? But I do know that I get those lessons and it's important to implement them in real life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and you know, it's I was talking about this, I forget who, maybe I think Matthew Palomari a couple of episodes ago. But we were talking about it's almost like a dream sometimes when you come out of it. I started writing things down while I'm in those zones because, like I said, I don't do it often anymore. But when I do, silent darkness meditation, it's almost like
Mhm.
a fact or I say fact finding mission, not a fact finding mission, but just like a mission to explore my creativity and really kind of explore my mind and things that I've been thinking about philosophically and things like that. So if I come up with an idea or an insight or whatever, I write it down. Sometimes you come out of it and you're like, even though you just wrote it down, you're like, that doesn't make sense. It's not that it doesn't make sense, but it's not like, oh, that's not as big of a breakthrough as it was when I was in there. Because I think that when you're in those states, there's other things happening. Your mind is operating on a different plane. So things that are clear to you in that moment are not clear when you come out. Like I said, almost like a dream. So I think it's important, that, maybe there is a disadvantage to me writing things down too, but I've also gained some stuff out of it too. So I think could go either way.
I think that's incredible, man. It's something I've done through the years. I'm working on a book with my fiance called Hello from Another Lifetime: Psychedelic Archaeology or Psycho-Spiritual Understanding. And it's exactly what you're saying, but she'll know when to wait to the right point where, you can be in a spot in your trip where it's not okay to talk. You know what I mean? So we kind of figured out a way to get where she knew when to talk to me. We would come up with topics, ideas to explore, almost like she was asking a Ouija board or something. You know what I mean? Would ask me in that space. And then she would write it down and we would record it. And then the next couple of days, part of my integration, I would journal and just riff on those topics and see what came out. Right. A buddy of mine, Danny Newman, told me that we don't really come down from this frequency the next day. You know what I mean? I found that really interesting. It's like he's like it
Danny
stays with
Newman,
us.
like PD Newman.
Absolutely, yeah. PD Newman.
I've had him on the show probably 8 times.
That's my boy, man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know
no,
that.
I love PD.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, that's my brother right there. That's
In fact, I've
crazy.
been trying to get him back on the show to discuss his books, Ghosts. But yeah, we'll figure that out soon. But yeah, he's a good dude. He's actually in the documentary we made too,
Oh,
as
sick.
within, so without, from UFOs to DMT. Yeah, he's a really good dude.
Yeah. No, he is a great dude.
But
He's the
actually,
one.
it's small world because that's not even who connected us. Actually, Dennis Walker, aka Micropreneur, is the one that
Mhm.
connected us.
Then it's another solid dude, man. That's my boy too. Good guy.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Um, so when so you said you mentioned you're writing a book with your fiance.
Mhm.
Um, do you have like a release date in mind, or are you still just in the midst of the creating of it?
We're in the midst of creating it, and we've been working on it. But obviously, it only happens when I'm on the trip. Only when I'm on the trip. Like I said, I'll riff on it a day or two after, but the main archaeology comes from the trip, right? And we don't have a release date right now because we're so concerned with it being absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? I don't want to make content. I don't want to use AI. It's all coming from the mushroom. I'm listing the mushroom as the third author. You know what I mean? Like, because I got tripped out one night and I said, I don't feel right. I wasn't even going to put the book together because I didn't feel right. I felt like it wasn't my work. You know what I mean? I've looked back over it in the last couple of years and was really pretty blown away. But it's just stuff coming from the mushroom, coming from the trip, you know. And I'm honored that we're able to get it.
For sure. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So have you done have you only done psilocybin, or have you tried other compounds, and psilocybin's just your favorite one, or?
I've tried other compounds. I've done ayahuasca, two separate occasions. Both times, one time was 2 nights in a row. One time was just one night. Um, it was cool. I think that the shaman might have went a little light on me. I asked him not to, but there was a lot of people in there who had never done any hallucinogens. So I get it. I understand. I mean, people were going crazy, losing their mind, getting sick. I felt a little different, but it didn't affect me the same. And maybe because, just something I do, but I tried that. I've definitely smoked DMT. I enjoy it. I don't take as many lessons from it. You know what I mean? It's more like a roller coaster ride than class. You know what I mean? Psilocybin mushrooms are just like, and I mean this metaphorically, not literally, but like church. You know what I mean? It's more like it's mystical, it's spiritual, it's nature. You know what I mean? It's
You're still
respect.
kind of there too, even at a high dose. You're still, yeah, you might be out there a little bit, but you're still there too. Like you're not so far gone or so far in a different realm where like you still have a foot in this reality.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're right. And yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
no, it's weird, right? I mean, just to think about there's this ancient thing, and most people don't even realize we're actually closer in the lineage of evolution to mushrooms than we are like plants and trees and things like that.
that's
So,
incredible, man.
yeah.
And I feel like I've always said that how there's a mycelial network below ground. I feel like there's this like psychic invisible mycelial network above ground. You know what I mean? And we're all on this frequency. As you mentioned, like a couple people we've got in common. It's like I just keep bumping into these people and finding these people through this. It's like web of mycelium above ground. It's invisible. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't know. It seems to keep happening. But as far as other psychedelics, like I bounced it around. Of course, I've tried a ton of LSD growing up. I don't want to be. I've seen people get burned out on it. And I want to be really careful of that because I don't feel that psilocybin will do you that way. And I would use it once a year or something like that. I don't visit LSD very often. But other than that, man, psilocybin just speaks to my soul. You know what I mean? And not everything does. There's enjoyment in all those things, but I can't take it as serious. It's not a sacrament in my world. You know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, psilocybin's by far my favorite compound too, and it was one of the first, other than like cannabis, it was like one of the first psychoactive compounds I really got into. And I mean, oddly enough, later on in my life, I mean, I have really bad OCD and anxiety, and that was the one thing that helped me kind of get out of this like mind loop that I was in. That kind of, and I had already had obviously a relationship with it and understood, and then started seeing literature on anxiety and mental health stuff, and starting to do things like that. So I was like, why not revisit this old friend? And yeah, it's been super beneficial and helping me understand myself and my mind a lot more. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of data and research to to fall back on now with all that. But at the time it was, I mean, I'm 41, we're talking over like, like 25 years ago or something crazy, so, but yeah, no, it's fun to see where it's all kind of going. And it's fun to see the path that even like cannabis, I live outside of Detroit. And before that I lived in Chicago. I grew up outside of Detroit, moved to Chicago, after college, and then moved back here just recently. And I think that it's just seeing how cannabis has kind of evolved in both places, the Detroit area and Chicago. And it's I would have never thought, if you would have told me that when I was younger, because like you said, these things used to be super legal, super regulated, super, hush hush, if you even talked about this kind of stuff, it was like, oh my God, but at the same time, like I said, I grew up on Grateful Dead, Fish, that kind of stuff, was going to see those shows when I was 15, 16, 17. And there's a whole underbelly culture with that, with all the compounds and everything. And that and literature and like electric Kool-Aid acid test and On the Road. And yeah, man, I mean, it's good times. It's fun to see where it's all going. Now when you do these, ceremonies and things like that, do you have a specific ritual, or is it just kind of get up into the woods and get out? I know you mentioned the crystals and things like that, but
Yeah,
is there anything?
my bad, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah,
No, you're good.
there's definitely I'll share it with you. I'll send it to you. I don't share it publicly because I feel it's very private and it's very meaningful. But I have the only thing I can come up with is like a passage or a prayer. Like I said, there's nothing religious about it. It's just that's kind of the reverence involved, and it's thanking the mushroom and giving respect and intention to the mushroom. I have that. I meditate with whoever I'm going in with. If it's someone who's never done it or never went big, I usually just sit for them and I face the other direction. I'll smoke a little bit and I'll meditate. I'll keep the fire going. I don't even look at them. I tell them I'm not going to talk to you unless you desire my conversation. If you don't initiate the conversation and keep it going, I'm just going to say yes. Are you okay? Okay. You know what I mean? I keep it very brief, and you know why. But it's an ancient, as you mentioned earlier. It's very ancient, and I believe very futuristic at the same time. You know, and the ritual, as far as the ritual, it's the meditation, the practice. Man, I'm always nervous when I'm making the tea. Like if another person's over here, I've noticed I don't look them in the eye when I'm in the kitchen. I'm real spastic and kind of all over. And for a while, I was like, man, why am I like that? And I was like, well, hell, I guess because I'm about to eat 9 grams of mushrooms and my body knows it. But I'm literally in the kitchen when I'm making the tea. I'm very nervous because
I
it's
get that
serious.
way after I ingest it. I'm like, oh, what the hell did I just
Oh
do?
yeah, yeah. Well, then it's too late. Then it's you had the baby. But yeah, and then we do the meditation. The meditation is super, super important to me. You know what I mean? To clear your mind, kind of get your thoughts situated. I take air mattresses, like camping air mattresses. The one person gets theirs, I get mine. I have my same spot every time. We take toilet paper, water, that type of thing. Like I mentioned, lock up the phones, no weapons. Everything's locked. The house, you can't even get in the house. You're so far from the house in the woods. All you could do is get lost in the woods, and you don't want to do that. So you just stay on your float, right? And then,
Where are you
other than
again?
that,
You're in Tennessee.
yeah, I'm in Tennessee.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
you
there's
got bears, you
zero.
got mountain lions, you got.
That's one of my only fears out there. I went out there alone one night. It took me till 2:30 in the morning to get the courage to go out by myself, mainly because of the wild animals, not the mushrooms. But it's and then, like I said, the crystals. That's a part I've just kind of integrated into it. They're mentioned in the passage in the prayer, and then zero music. You know what I mean? It's just the forest, just the sounds of the animals, the birds, the bugs, and the fire. And I've had a couple people come out there and say, is there any music, or what are we going to do? I said, just give it a minute. You'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Once those 9 hit, you're not thinking about music.
The nature
You know,
provides the music.
that's right. That's right. And
And
sometimes,
actually, you know, if you've got it, you said you did you say you have like a campfire and stuff going?
Mhm.
One of my
Yep.
most transformative experiences was camping and in front of a campfire and seeing these crazy. I still won't go into it because it's private, as you mentioned. You got to, there's some things you keep close to the vest here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that being said, yeah, one of my most crazy experiences was seeing visions in a big fire while I was camping. So, um,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, I think that you're on the right track in terms of like the setup for having these experiences for sure.
Well, and thank you for saying that. And I've also, and again, a lot of these things you can't really back by science, so you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. If it's within me, if it's without me, cool. I come out happier, a better person. I want to be nicer to people, and I'm doing better in my regular life. So whatever the hell's going on, it's working. But I feel like sometimes, man, you'll make a good point once you're to the point where you are talking. And it's like there's certain animals out there, certain birds that'll like kind of say, yeah, what he said. You know what I mean? Like a bird will chirp, and he'll only chirp when you made a good point. And man, we crack up about that. But being in that same place all the time and caring for that place. I left after one trip, and when I left, I locked the gate and I was leaving. And man, I went to come back from locking the gate, and I just dropped to my knees and was like, "Thank you." And I mean, I'm not a necessarily a religious person or anything like that. Just something about the forest made me feel like I had to thank it. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to be back for a month. I was going on tour. There's just a lot of love and respect out here on this land in this forest. You know what I mean? And it's I feel like I have some native in me. It's on my father's side. I don't know him, so I don't know how much or any details. But I feel a very Native American approach. You know what I mean? I feel like I have a relationship with the land, a relationship with the mushroom. And that sounds outlandish to some people, but it's been a thing longer than it wasn't. You know what I mean? So I mean, all these cultures from other sides of the world and right here in our own country, and South America, everywhere. It's like this has been kind of what they did. It's just now that it's not. So to tap back into it, I mean, I don't know what got me to that point. Probably interest and things like that in the mushrooms, but I'm very thankful, extremely thankful.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we've done this thing. I go on this camping trip. Well, I haven't the last few years. Actually, I haven't since before COVID. But before that, I had been every single year. I mean, because during COVID, we had our son, and there's just a lot of stuff going on. But before that, I'd gone every single year since I was like 5 years old. And then when you become of age, you go off. You do, you go in the woods. You have fun. Whatever, experiment. And then when we became high school, college, obviously you're doing different things. And yeah, I mean, the woods of northern Michigan have been very kind to me and my insights. And are you in the near the Smoky Mountains or just
I'm en route to the Smokies. You
okay?
keep going. If you left Nashville, I'm on the way to the Smokies.
Oddly
There's a
enough, I've oh, go ahead, sorry.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, oddly enough, one year we went to Bonnaroo after we graduated high school. That was when it was still all jam bands playing there, and I think it's Manchester, Tennessee. But we stopped off in the Smokies and had a couple experiences there, and yeah, super amazing woods there. And I know my former co-host of my cousin, he's spent a lot of time hiking those mountains too. And was it Klingman's Dome or something like that? He always talked about the
Thinking
highest.
my language, bro. How
Yeah,
about in the Mount LeConte, probably?
yeah, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm all about that. I love all that stuff. So
Mount LeConte is one that I probably went to 15 years in a row, and I probably tripped 7 of those. And we would go up there, and I've taken a lot of good friends. There's some crazy stuff happen up on that trail, but it's 5 miles up,
I think
5 miles
crazy
down.
stuff happens in that area in general. I know like two people that have been permanently banned from Gatlinburg, which is weird that like
For real.
these neither of these two people are even from Tennessee. So
Damn.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, I love it up there, man. Smoky Mountains are really beautiful.
Oh, for sure, man.
So there's mushrooms
I
in
love
there for
nature in general, but yeah, the Smoky Mountains are specifically a very beautiful range. So when you come back from tour, do you feel like it's almost like a necessity to do one of these ceremonies? Is that kind of like a like decompress process?
It's the
Uh,
first thing I do. It's the first thing I do. Like, I'll get home, rest, but I mean, the next day, everybody knows I'm going to the woods and I'm going to reset. And I think it's in everybody's best interest. It's inspired me to, I've told this a couple times, but Wolf had a friend, Yelawolf had a friend named Pooh Bear, who he introduced me to at some point. And Pooh Bear had this thing where he was just really good, positive guy. And instead of saying hello, he would just always say happy birthday. And I loved it, but he was so eclectic and like I just didn't have it in me to do that. I got it and I wanted to do it. And then just like last year and a half ago, we were on tour, me and Wolf, and it was a late night, and he was like, "Man, we should start doing the happy birthday." You know what I mean? Just let's just do it. So we started doing the happy birthday, and then we took it a step up, and I would get, they have riders in the green room where you get whatever the artist wants. And on the rider, I would put a birthday cake every single show. And at the end of the show, I get everybody involved, from everybody on the crew, the people in the hallway, the security guards, everybody. Bring them in, sing happy birthday. When it's time to say who it is, you point at everybody, you say their names, and then it's good luck to take a bite. So, we're just taking this stuff, man, and trying to be positive. Like, even as adults, remembering to step outside of any hypnosis that may have a hold of you and remember where you come from. You know what I mean? Like, it's important for me at this point in my life. Remember the child within. They say the creative adult is a child who survived. I love that quote. I don't know who it belongs to, but it's so important for me to use that as like a mantra and understand creativity is therapy, and don't get caught up in, the things that everyone wants you to get caught up in. You know what I mean? It's important to clean that off and kind of calibrate.
for sure. Oh, um, yeah. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've had heavy things happen where it's nice to just kind of, um, dose it down and kind of navigate from there. So I can totally understand your need to go through that process. What about like creativity? So like, you're a photographer,
Mhm.
you're involved with music and artists and things like that. Do you think that these experiences are essential to those processes, or how do you like implement things that you learn in those realms into your creative processes?
So that's something I'll say about DMT. DMT has really inspired my creativity. I don't really take too many life lessons away from DMT, but it inspires me to be creative. I was doing DMT on the coast of Hawaii at a place called Seven Sacred Pools, off the road to Hana. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's off the road to Hana, and it's outside of Maui. Anyway, after I did that trip, I mean, as I was in the trip, I have a wave machine I sleep to. And I was in this DMT zone, and I thought, as I was coming to, I thought I was at my house in my bed, and I thought the waves crashing on the shore were my wave machine. Then I came to, and all of a sudden I was taking pictures. I was just shooting random landscapes and nature and stuff like that. That's the only reason I had the camera. And then all of a sudden I had this idea, and it's easy to say like take a picture, flip it, mirror it, and then you get this entity in the middle, right? But getting creative with that and using that in nature, like you could go take a picture of a path on the woods, just a straight up picture, and then split it down the middle, flip it and mirror it, symmetrical, and you get like this weird entity. We know what that is. But I started getting really creative with that idea and doing it with fire and doing it with different kinds of stones and rocks and imagining how it's going to look ahead of time. I'm working on another photography book. These things all can take a couple years. It's not any rush. It's called Entities Patterns, based on what I'm telling you right now. And it all started from that DMT trip on the coast of Seven Sacred Pools. So there's that. Psilocybin just inspires me to to spend my moments wisely and remember that this time is passing currently, and to live in the moment. And living in the moment, I need something to inspire me to do that. And creativity is that inspiration. That's that tool. That's that therapy. And as I mentioned, Rhyme earlier, when he came to town, this is a crazy story. But my mother used to always tell me, be creative, be creative. And I was like, yeah, I got you. But I'm good at this business, and that's what pays the bills. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Rhyme is a really well-known guy, was introduced by my buddy Dax. And he called one day and he said, Rhyme told me he wants to come see you. Now, about 2 years before that, they were doing like a psychedelic road trip, and they were going to stop by my place, but they never made it to Tennessee. And I just never talked to him since then. And they called me randomly. We're like, Ryan wants to come see you. It was a weird call. I don't really know what's going on. I was like, all right, cool, send him. So he comes to the land. He takes me on some DMT ceremonies. We were in the zone all day. We played music, we played drums, we played singing bowls. He's throwing notebooks at me and markers and like, draw, write, let me hear you. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even understand at this point, I don't think, what it is he's taking a part in and didn't even have the knowledge of. And he said at one point, we're just both sitting on the porch, like, tripped out, smoking DMT. And we're like, I don't even know why I came. And then he told me about an hour later, he said, I figured it out. I said, what's that? He said, I know why I'm here. I said, why? He said, to remind you to be creative. And by the time he left, I mean, like I said, we had been playing instruments and drawing and writing poetry, and it wasn't all the best shit ever, you know what I mean? But it was the act, you know what I mean? The act of doing it, remembering to do it, and making yourself do it, not worrying about if it's good or bad. Some of the stuff we made, played, and created was incredible, but that's not the point. The point is the act of it, the therapy of it. And he said to me, I know why I came now. I said, why? He said, to remind you to be creative. And I told him that my mom used to tell me that all the time. What are the chances of you just showing up? And then the next day I took him on a psilocybin trip, and I have my little rules and regulations. I rolled up 2 joints beforehand, and I said, you smoke? You want a joint? He said, how many did you roll? I said 2. He said, I'm on the same program as you. He said, everything you do to the T, I'm following your lead. And then that night I got lost in the woods. And he said I was there for about 3 hours. He searched the whole house. We ended up having it was kind of like, he's a real psychonaut and I'm a real psychonaut. So it was like playing ball with somebody who could play. You know what I mean? And we had an incredible journey, man. I can't wait till he comes back, because it's always fun. You got to be careful when you're doing this with someone who's not really that seasoned, because things can go left. They can go left when you're not, but they can really go left. You know what I mean? Like, when you don't know what you're doing, you haven't had enough experiences. I had one. It's been about a month ago now. Last journey I did was with a friend of mine, and she started feeling like she was dying. She was like, it was about 5 hours in. She was like, I'm dying. I keep coming back. I'm dying. I keep coming back. And something allowed me, I ate just as much as she did. Something allowed me to come back long enough to go over there and be calm. And I wasn't bothered by it. I wasn't freaked out. I had everything in me to tell her. My advice was definitely tripped out, because she was like, I'm dying and coming back. Am I okay? Help me, talk to me, breathe. And I just got to breathe, right? And I said, just keep dying. Just continue to die. And then she's, I'm dying, I'm coming back, I'm dying, I'm coming. Just talk. I said, die again, please, die again. And then the moon, it was a full moon that night. The moon was shining on her. And I said, intuitively, I said, now bask in the light of the full moon and please be reborn. And again, this is metaphorical, right? Like, you can
Sounds
be.
like something that's like inscribed on an Egyptian temple or something.
It felt like something that would be inscribed on an Egyptian temple, man. It was the craziest, what felt like an initiation. You know what I mean? It was like, but I was able to step outside of that zone. And I'll tell you something else that I think is really interesting about that mushroom specifically. So my fiance knew about, a buddy of mine gave me a bag a while ago, and I ate on those for a couple months, and I loved them. They were really healing. They were just the most incredible mushroom I've ever experienced. I ran out. The guy who gave them to me couldn't get a hold of them. I was like, man, I had other mushrooms coming in, and they were great. They did what mushrooms do, but it just wasn't mystical. It didn't hit like sacred. You know what I mean? And I was at this festival, walking through the festival in the population with the people. My artist Yelawolf was performing, and someone walks up to me, and I mean, it wasn't super random. I mean, a lot of times he'll put the people he works with on his social media. They knew who I was via him, right? But I'm walking through the crowd and I'm teaching my nephew how to shoot. I'm teaching him how to shoot photography and how to use the camera and giving him things to shoot and trying to help. And right about that moment, we're working on the camera. Someone says, "Hey, are you Edward Crowe?" I said, "I am." I said, "How are you? What's your name?" I went to introduce myself. And they said, "Man, I was given this bag of mushrooms and told it was very important to get it to you." I said, "Well, that's incredible." I was like, "What do I owe you?" He said, "You don't owe me nothing. It was just important that I get it to you." I take these back, and they are the exact mushroom that I've been telling my fiance I have to have this mushroom. If I don't know what I'm gonna do. They were the exact mushroom. I took them home, and guess what? I told you I do 9 grams usually with one person. There was 18.5 grams, enough to try to clone, right? And enough for 2 doses. And at the end of that trip, it was almost like the mushroom found me after hearing me talk about it so much. Again, I'm speculating. I'm whatever. It is what it is. But at the end of the trip, I was cleaning up the mess, and we had brought firewood that was wrapped in like cellophane or saran wrap, and I was cleaning that up. I was going to come back and clean everything else up in the morning, but just out of respect for the land, I was picking up whatever trash I could. I picked up one with my left hand. I went to pick up another with my right, and I felt something slimy in my right hand. And I was like, "Oh, did I pick up a slug or something?" I opened my hand, and there's a fresh white mushroom that I just grabbed out of the grass. We took a flashlight, and I told my friend Pam, I said, "If you can find one more of these, I'll give you 2 hours and $200." You know what I mean? When I tell you, Mike, they were zero. They were nowhere. It was the craziest thing ever, man. It was almost like the mushroom was like, like winking at me or something. It was
That's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah. Did you ever
Yeah.
find out what strain it was?
The one that I found,
Yeah.
or you mean the one that
The one that that said it was important that you
I was
had.
told that it was originally. I was told that it was true albino teachers, but I've had some other true albino teachers, and they just weren't the same. You know what I mean? It could have a lot to do with genetics and things like that. They weren't built the same. They looked like two different mushrooms. One was short and stout. The other was like airy and fluffy, the good one. And yeah, I was told they were true albino teachers. I don't know for sure, but I know I definitely want to keep them around.
Yeah,
You know,
no, that's for sure. And actually, they've been decriminalized here in Ann Arbor,
are you serious? What,
where
all
the
psilocybin mushrooms?
where the University of Michigan is. And actually, there's one I was completely thrown. They're called Enigma. I was completely thrown off, and yeah, these things really, very very potent. So yeah, there's a lot of like crossbreeding. You know, you got your penis envy, you got your golden teachers, you got your. Actually, to be honest with you, one of the better podcasts I've heard. I don't know. Do you know who Hamilton Morris is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Hamilton Morris did a podcast with the guy that created basically the penis envy strain. It was like an abort from the Amazonian Terrence and Dennis McKenna batch.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. I recommend people go check that out if you haven't
I
listened
love
to
it.
it.
Like that sounds
Yeah,
really
for
cool. I
sure.
didn't know the story behind it. I've noticed, like I said, man, I stick to the golden teachers and the true albino teachers. Golden teachers, I would have to take a bigger dose just because they're not as potent. But yeah, the true albino teachers are my thing for sure. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean
Hamilton.
the only thing that's ever like blow like visually, like I remember my buddy and I. So this was, I think I was 17. We went to the see the. It was called The Other Ones. It was the Grateful Dead minus Jerry Garcia. Obviously, he had passed away,
Hmm.
and we were at the Palace of Auburn Hills, which no longer exists, where the Pistons used to play. And
Hmm.
this hippie's like, "You guys looking for anything?" It was like, it was. I'm not joking. It was an acorn cap. It was like this big. It was like we
Dang.
split. It was a quarter. We like split it in half. It was crackled dry, but yeah, no, I'm not like huge into like, oh, what strain is it, man? Because I think that they all kind of do similar things, but I do think that there are certain times where it's like, oh my gosh, like this thing's double or triple the amount of potency that a normal cubensis or whatever.
And that could be what it is too. It could be a potency thing. I mean, I hate to, I know, like I said, the uninitiated probably think I'm crazy for continuing to talk about a purge, but like there's a difference in the true albino teachers. When you hear someone really purge on those, I mean, it almost sounds like they're speaking another language. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like another language. And a lot of the other mushrooms that I've seen, it just sounds like they're throwing up. You know what I mean? And I don't know, man. It feels like there's something to that. Again, all this stuff is speculative. We can't really prove anything. My whole mantra and takeaway is just as long as I'm doing what I can to be a better version of myself, you know what I mean? And I'm being happier to people and I'm finding a better meaning in life, whether it's within my own mind or it's something without, it's all just as good.
Oh, for sure, man. There's no doubt to me that can't like previous my late 20s and early 30s cannabis and psychedelics have definitely made me a more introspective, better person. Um, and I think that there's something like that comes with those, like they make you not just evaluate, but it's like if you have a high dose psilocybin, it's like I got to get my shit together. I'm gonna do this, and it's important that I really do all of these things, as opposed to just like making a list and like, oh, I'm gonna knock this out this week or whatever. There's almost like a pact that you have with like the mushroom where you're like, oh, I've got to fulfill these things, that I learned, kind of a thing. Do you ever feel that?
100%. I love how you said a pact. Like, I agree completely. And I don't like to go back to the mushroom until I feel like I've lived up to the pact. You know what I mean? Like, until I've done my best at doing what I was, inspired to do. You know what I mean? And last time, this last trip I told you about with my friend, we both, like, one of the takeaways I take away a lot is like ideas of death. Not in a way that's like, and I know that's a common thing, not in a way that's like a metaphorical rebirth. Like, we're all aware we're not speaking, your physical body becoming reborn, but a metaphorical, psychological, spiritual rebirth in adopting some of the ideas that we can learn from death, right? When death comes, there's no explanation. You could have breakfast planned in the morning, dinner tomorrow, stuff to do for work. It doesn't matter. When death comes, it's time to go, right? There's no explanation. So something that, when you're busy and handling business, and a lot of people want to explain things. I've taken the back seat to allowing people to explain me things. I'll very kindly explain to them that I can't really. If I sat through every explanation throughout the day, that's all I would do. So that's one of the things I took away is, okay, cool. When death happens, there is no explaining. So I'm gonna abide by that. Another thing is, I've got all these things. I don't mean expensive things, just things. We've all got junk drawers, batteries and sunglasses and all kinds of random stuff. And I made it a point to, this last time was like, when you die, what happens? They get rid of all your things. They give it away, they sell it, they keep a couple sentimental items. That's what I'm going to go home and do. So that's what I went home and did. I put every piece of furniture in my house except for my bed and my end tables on Facebook Marketplace for free. Had people come pick it all up. I don't want it. I don't want the energy attached to it. I don't think it'll be bad energy for someone else. But the me that wasn't the me today sat on that couch and thought like I thought before I was me, right? And that's a lesson that I take from death. Get rid of all that old stuff. And it's okay if I got to go without for a little while. I don't have it where I'm just going to go buy all new stuff. It'll just make its way back into my life like it originally did, except for it will be attached to new energy. My whole new outlook on life. That's what I need the objects in my room and in my home to reflect.
Well, that makes sense. And I think that we live in a weird time too where, you know, you can have a lot of things, right? We're not living in the 1800s or whatever. There's Amazon and online shopping, and you see something and you like something, and and we're attached to things like you said, couches, beds, TVs, whatever it is, desk, and if you felt like that was important to transition into a new, mode of yourself, then you got to do what you got to do. I completely understand that. Um, so let's pivot a little bit here, and then I don't know if you know this, but we do a segment called Mike's Mind Melters, where I ask you 5 philosophical questions. We'll get to that in a little bit, but why don't you tell me a little bit about your cigar company? I'm not a big cigar guy, but my dad is a huge cigar guy. Like I bought him some nice cigars for his 60th birthday. So what's
I have to send you out a box of them.
okay?
Murder Cigars. So the reason we called it Murder is because my name is Edward Crowe, and a group of crows is considered a murder, right? I also found out later that detectives back in the day would go in, and because the crime scene wouldn't smell so pleasant, they would smoke cigars. That's kind of why you see the old detectives smoking cigars in the TV shows. But anyway, Murder Cigars. It all started when I got a phone call. Someone was offering me a cigar brand for Yelawolf, and I called Wolf, and I told him, and he said, like I said, Wolf has always got my back, and he's always true to himself. Like if there's something he won't do, he's not going to act like he will. So he said, I don't smoke cigars, you do. And I was like, all right, cool. So tell him no. He was like, nah, tell him we want to do one for you. And I said, well, that's cool and all, but you're the celebrity. You're the one that they want to do this. He basically let me know that he's got my back. He was like, nah, let's do a cigar for you. I like the idea. So then my other partner, Cairo Wolf, designed the band and the logo. It's evolved, and the box took a while and things like that. It took 2.5 years to get the tobacco narrowed down and the cigar just right. And I'm really, really proud of it. It's not just a white labeled situation. You know what I mean? It's our cigar, and it's a really enjoyable cigar. It's a mild, like cigar you could smoke all day long if you wanted to. Um, we launched it at Smokin' O's Cigar Festival in I think it's Wilkes Barre, PA, with Best Cigar Prices, Laura and Jonas from Blackbird, and it was incredible, man. Everything that I thought that they wouldn't like about us. You think about the cigar business kind of like a good old boys network, right? Like there's gatekeepers. You know what I mean? There's people who are going to regulate whether or not you're allowed in. You know what I mean? And I got there, and every single thing that I thought, the packaging was different. The packaging doesn't look like their packaging. It looks more modern. It's a little more harsh. It's just different. All their stuff, like most of the stuff at the festival, is traditional. And I'm a fan. I love that look, right? But I like that we did something different. Everything that we did different is what they came and complimented, and they absolutely loved us. So we were welcomed with open arms. And then the product was good on top of that, which is most important. You can't smoke the band. You know what I mean? So
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're excited.
I love I love the idea of that. And I'm not a huge cigar guy. I don't really
Right.
like smoke. I even like if I do, I vape cannabis, whatever.
Right.
But like I said, my dad smokes. I bought him, I think it was like a nice anniversary box of Padron. Do you know what that is? Padron.
Dude,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I grew up, he's always had like Cohiba shirts and Monte Cristo, and
He's a real smoker.
he's always been into like I remember him taking me to like the cigar shop where there's like a bunch of old guys sitting around smoking cigars, cutting cigars, that kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's something that I started to do as a pastime. I love cigars. I smoke cigars. I'm definitely not a connoisseur or anything. I don't know all the terms and all that. I'm learning on purpose because we started a cigar brand. We need to be informed. But I'm really, really thankful that it worked out the way it did. And it turned more from a side hustle, like, oh, this would be cool. It'll be nice to have this little brand, to all of a sudden it's selling and people are buying it and people are enjoying it. Yesterday, we did a fundraiser for the Davidson County Drug Court, and we were the only vendor there, and we were giving away cigars. We weren't, but we were the only vendor that was allowed to be there. I mean, the Davidson County DA, all the judges, the criminal defense attorneys. I'm sitting here thinking, what are we doing here with a cigar called Murder? You know what I mean? Like, it was incredible, man. It was so awesome. And
that's
and I got
funny.
invited to more. So yeah, it was definitely like a paradox moment. Like,
How do you like source the tobacco? Like, so like where does I know tobacco? Where does it come from? Like
so
Nicaragua,
ours is, yeah, you can get
Cuba.
Nicaragua, Cuba,
Yeah.
Dominican, Ecuador. We do a Dominican filler, and an Ecuador wrap.
Okay.
And it's a Maduro, so it's a darker cigar. It's got like cinnamon, some floral notes. It's a mild bodied smoke. It's right in the middle. You know what I mean? So it's a good one, man.
Do you ever
It's a good
use any of the wraps for anything else?
No. You can't. Well, it's a real cigar doesn't.
No,
have
I
like,
know. I know.
well, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, did you unwrap it or?
Yeah. I would
We're
have
looking to
tried.
get into some blunt wraps or something eventually. Like we're gonna do, because Murder Cigars are only gonna be sold at like top shelf, high end cigar lounges. But I have the ability to get in many, many, many gas stations, tobacco stores. I don't want to put Murder Cigars in there; they're too top shelf. But we do want to have a product like a blunt wrap or a leaf. You know what I mean? Something
Yeah, or
like
even
that.
if you get something in the dispensaries,
Right. Exactly.
for sure. That's
So
awesome, man. Congratulations on
yeah,
that.
thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm
Well,
really, really grateful.
are you ready to get your mind melted with Mike's Mind Melters?
Melt my mind, Mike. Let's go.
All right, Edward, are you ready to get your mind melted?
I'm nervous.
Just so these are 5 philosophical questions. Answer them the best you can. There's no right or wrong answer. Some people probably debate that, but just do your best and let's have fun with it. Number 1. What is something you believe in that you know is probably wrong or illogical, but you are just not being honest with yourself?
What's something I believe in? That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Is there any kind of phone a friend or any kind of
No,
no, I'm going
I'll give you an example. So like somebody that maybe is religious or believes in God, but deep down they know that maybe there is no God. Not that I believe that or anything, but that's just an example.
right. Man, honestly, I don't know that I do believe in anything. Like that's one of my things is we can try another question, edit this out. But one of my things is I'm kind of like so open minded. I believe everything and don't believe anything. You know
No,
what I mean?
we don't have to edit anything. That's your answer. That's fine. There's
Okay.
look, I've got a wide array of people that come on the show, scientists, and I think I'm honest with myself, but I think that there are people that are not honest with themselves, that are fooling themselves in some way. So that question is just to open it up. Maybe there's a cognitive bias or a blind spot you're not aware of or something like that. But yeah, we don't.
No, I'm reaching to see. I was reaching to see, but I think that is my answer: is to be so open minded that I understand that I will learn forever, forever be a student. I will never know everything. You know what I mean? And I think there's a beauty in that. But no, I don't have anything that I can think of that I believe in that I'm not being honest with myself.
Well, that's a great perspective, and actually, an ever-changing philosophy is a great philosophy.
Boom.
Number 2, do you think there is an objective purpose for humanity, and if so, what?
An objective purpose for humanity. Objective meaning like it's on purpose or
Objective is in like for everybody, like it's to all live,
okay.
in love or so. Like we all have one, not like your self purpose or telos,
I
but
get what
just
you're saying. The
yeah,
purpose of all humanity.
yes.
I mean, my answer from my small perspective in the universe would be, I believe the highest frequency is love and good energy and spreading, like doing what you can to create a ripple in reality that brightens many other people's days, makes many other people happy, and inspires other people. I mean, that's my answer to your question is love, happiness, smiling. You know what I mean? Doing things to literally make people happier, and try to create that ripple.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Number 3. Do you think humans are special or separate from the rest of nature? If the answer is yes, give me your best example or explanation of why.
I guess my answer would be on the fence because I believe that humans are different. And I think it's interesting because we're one of a kind, the only species on the planet that drives cars and goes to school and does all the things we do as humans. But are we special? I guess that has to be determined by what we mean by special. Like special, if different is special, then yes. But special, no. I mean, I think some of nature just sits back and quietly watches us and is probably just as alive or more than we are. Some of these things are hundreds or thousands of years old. So I guess
Yeah,
that's my answer. That's my
that's a good
answer.
answer.
You're melting
Yeah,
my mind, Mike. You're melting my mind. It's working.
yeah, the question is just to, some people think, oh, well, we make tools or something like that. But actually, there are primates that make proto versions of tools. The difference would be we make recursive tools, which means we make tools that, so like we're on a rapid pace to keep separating ourselves from nature. And the reason why I asked that question is twofold: to just to pick people's brains and see what they think, and also to basically, some people are religious or do think we have some sort of like divine thing in us that's separate from the rest of nature. And I'm just curious what their thoughts are. People that believe that, what are their thoughts on that? So
Well, my main thing, as we've discussed throughout this podcast episode, is, I like to try to tune into nature as much as possible. So I guess me personally, I don't feel special. I feel connected and a part of. You know what I mean?
and actually, the idea of like nature is God, that's a very
Hmm.
Spinoza, who was a famous philosopher, that's his idea. And actually that's what Albert Einstein embraced as kind of his spirituality too. So number 4,
Let's hear it.
what do you think happens when we die?
Very, very broad, very broad. But I believe in a couple different ideas. Obviously, reincarnation, plays a role. But I also think that maybe I don't believe in any specific religious aspect of what happens, that I'm aware of. But I think that like your mind state throughout your life, how you purposely drive your emotions and what you let affect you and whether or not you contribute to the ripple, the ripple's going to happen regardless, whether it's a bad ripple or a good ripple. But, whatever that is, I feel like whatever state of mind you're in, that might be your heaven or your hell. You know what I mean? Not that those things are a place, but if you carry that mindset into eternity, if it is an eternal thing and we go back to being one with whatever this whole thing is, right? I'm a big fan of the time when they referred to God as the unspoken word. You know what I mean? Because I believe as humans, it's got to be really hard to wrap your mind around what the creator must be. You know what I mean? And they made the analogy specifically in the Tao of physics, where it's like, and we've heard this several times, but the similarities between our cells and the universe or the planets revolving around the sun, the sun being the nucleus. And so it's all very, there's many different ways to look at it. I'd say, like, what if we're just a cell in some much larger creature's body? You know what I mean? Like, and then the only other thing that I would think about death, what could potentially happen, is reincarnation. I had a journey one time, real quick, if this is okay. Can I tell you something? Take me
Yeah,
about a
yeah.
minute.
Go off.
So the my mother bought me a cabinet from a museum in Carthage, Tennessee. We had no idea. We had never heard of this tribe or didn't know what the cabinet was. She just knew it was a medicine man's cabinet and felt I should have it. Hand carved from a museum. She bought it, brought it to me. The little piece of paper with it said Yoruba tribe shaman's cabinet. So I was leaving for Europe. I put my mushrooms in this cabinet. When I got in the Uber to go to the airport, there was a gentleman driving, and he was obviously an African man. And when he was driving, we were having small talk. He asked me where I was going and this and that. And I said, "Where are you from?" And he was driving, and he turned around and looked at me like I should know. He said, "I'm from a place you may have heard of called Yoruba." And he looked at me like that. And I just was like, whoa, because I just got this cabinet. right? And then I go to Europe. He says in my phone, he said it to me at first, may God watch over you on your journey in your Reuben language. And I asked him, I said, can I please record that? He said, absolutely. So he set it into my phone. I still have it. And then I went to Europe, came back, and I was in my bathroom at the time that I was telling you about doing a big dose trip. And I laid back. And man, when I came up, I asked my lady, I said, who is that? And she says, just me. But I didn't see her. I was surrounded by African people in tribal gear, and it could have been the future, it could have been the past. I have no idea if it was the future or the past. And I was either being born or dying. They loved me and I loved them. And I'm pretty sure I was one of them. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, it felt that strong, that potent. And it's ever since then, Yoruba keeps coming to me. I went to Cuba and met a Yoruban saint, and not on purpose. I just bumped into him. I was in Cuba. And before this cabinet, I never heard of Yoruba. I didn't know what it was or have any idea. So anyway, that could be just a psychedelic vision. Maybe I'm tapping in with something. Maybe it's all in my head. Maybe it's a past life. So that's my answer.
Well, I mean, the synchronicity is a real synchronicity. It sounds like it's, the the weird thing about a synchronicity is I've never really heard a good explanation for it. There is, so I think Carl Jung used to have these back and forths with this physicist, Wolfgang Pauli, who worked on the Manhattan Project, and they would go back and forth and, give ideas of, what it could be or whatever. Yeah, I think that when you have those moments where things happen like that, you have to pay attention and listen, because the universe is trying to speak to you and connect to you or give you some sort of sign or symbol or something. And if you're there to witness it, or you're got an open mind to it, I think that there can be benefits to that. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. I see the thing, whatever it is, the creator, the God, the universe. I think it's kind of like, I said this on another buddy of mine's podcast, but it's like you're playing with a puppy, right? Like it's like, and the more you throw the thing to fetch, the more it plays back. But if you don't throw it, it doesn't play back. But in this case, I feel like the puppy. You know what I'm saying? Just playing back with the universe. And the more that I do that, the more I receive, the more signs, symbols, and synchronicities.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I there was a time where I was like so deep when I first started the podcast, like 8 years ago. I was going through like a spiritual awakening. My mom had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. She's luckily fine now. She's in remission. But at the time, it like really shook me up and kind of sent me on this journey to look into all these different topics and spirituality. I was raised Roman Catholic, but by the time I was 12 or 13, I'm like, these people think they're right and nobody else in the world's right. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So, and then I revisited it when I got older and started, getting into psychoactive compounds and spirituality and thinking about like aliens and stuff like that and contemplating the universe. So yeah, man, I think that, I think when you're there to witness these things, like I said, I think the universe is trying to give you a message. However, you got to be careful, because I think you can start to put too many pieces together or get too deep in it where you become, disassociated with actual reality. I think you have to like walk that tightrope between, or this liminal path, if that makes sense.
I agree. You can definitely go too far down a rabbit hole and it might be hard to come back out.
Oh, for sure. And I know those people too. So yeah,
Yeah,
that exists. All right. Last question. Here's the quote leading into it. Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. That is a quote by Arthur C. Clarke, one of my favorite quotes. Do you think there is life elsewhere in the universe, or do you think we are alone?
I do, man. I believe that there is, but it's hard for me to believe that they're little green guys shaped just like us flying in on flying saucers. You know what I mean? Like, I believe it could be so much deeper. You know what I mean? It could be multidimensional. It could be so far away that we could never ever be able to comprehend the distance. I don't know how to quantify it, but I do believe that there is intelligent life in some capacity outside of planet Earth. Again, whether it's another dimension or realm or, but it's hard to believe in what we're told is an infinite universe that nothing else exists and we happen to be in this Goldilocks zone, of perfection for life, you know. And what was the other part? When there are second parts of the question?
No, it was just saying either, the quote was either we are alone in the universe or we're not. Both are equally terrifying, meaning that, if we're not alone, what else is out there? Like what could it be? And if we are alone, that's pretty fucking scary too, right? Because
that's a crazy quote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, I appreciate you answering all those. I know, the goal of the questions is to get people to talk about and think about things that we kind of put on the back burner in our own minds, like death and cognitive biases and, existential questions and things like that. So, I want to ask everybody, whether you're a scientist or a shaman or, a hip hop manager that does ceremonial, mushroom trips, whatever it is. I just want to hear what people have to say,
I love that. And yeah, I think as far as the life somewhere else, I mean, or it could be something as crazy as, you walk by an anthill and you would never think to pay attention or look down and say hello to the ants, right? I mean, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's something so far past us that we're just an anthill. There's so many possibilities, but I don't think that being alone in the universe is one of them in my own mind.
Yeah, I mean, the other mind melter, if you will, would be what if we were the first, though, too? So we would be alone, but we're the beginning of the story or the beginning of the journey or something along those lines.
Right.
And we're the ones about to seed, the universe. Although I'm not even convinced that life started here. I think that it's possible that, we look at asteroids and comets and things and the idea of panspermia, and even mushrooms can survive the vacuum of space. So who's not to say that, we're part mushroom?
Well, I've heard that. I think you said it in the beginning, right? We're closer to.
Well, so we have a common ancestor with mushrooms that goes back 1.6 billion years, I think. So we're closer with mushrooms than we are with plants and trees and stuff like that.
That's incredible, man. That's really crazy.
Hell yeah. Well, let's wrap it up, bro. I had a fantastic conversation with you, and I'd love to have you back on sometime in the future.
Absolutely. It's been a great time chopping it up with you, and I appreciate you, and I enjoyed our conversation as well.
For sure, bro. And shout out again to Dennis, aka Micropreneur, for connecting us. And you also know PD Newman, which was kind of a crazy, when you mentioned Danny, I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, man, small world. And, all the people that, are in this realm are actually really cool people. The podcasting, author, psychedelia kind of stuff. I've met very few turds. So yeah,
right.
So.
Same. No, I've had good experience. So, and the people that you named, I mean, Dennis has been instrumental. Big help. Awesome dude.
He's awesome. So, you want to talk about positive? I've never met somebody so positive in my life that lives half his life in a Speedo. So.
Well, no, that comedy cracks me up.
This guy was showing me he's got a bunch of flags on different ones and stuff. So. But yeah, listen, man, I really appreciate it. If anybody's interested, I will have Edward's link down below. Check out all of his stuff, his photography, Yelawolf, Murder Cigars. Anything else you want to plug?
EdwardCrowe.com. Everything is there. EdwardCrowe.com.
I will have the link down below.
Yes,
and I really appreciate it, man. And we're going to end this podcast the same way we end all podcasts, which is we love everybody. Stay safe out there. And we'll catch you next time. Peace. If you would like to support Mind Escape, there's many ways you can do it, but the best way to do it is to click the LinkTree link down below. I have everything from merch to our Patreon page. Our Patreon, by the way, I archived a lot of the Mind Escape 1.0 episodes on there. There is still some available on our YouTube channel and our Spotify and Apple Podcast. However, like I said, if you're looking for a specific older episode, it might be on our Patreon, which has been archived, and it's $2 a month. And there's also exclusive content on there as well that was never released to any other platform. So please go check that out. You can also check out our documentary that Maurice and I made a few years ago called As Within, So Without, From UFOs to DMT. That is available on there as well. There's also a director's cut. Video versions of Mind Escape New Telos are available on YouTube and Spotify, and it's also available on all audio platforms like Apple and whatever other audio platform you use to listen to your podcast. So please subscribe, like, and follow us, and we'd also appreciate any nice review.